Hello, and thanks for joining me on another episode of Zulf Talks podcast. We cover a number of areas as part of our podcast, and working life is a big arena. There's loads of little changes and things we can do just to help us get through the day, the week, and the month. And we will be covering today ways to bring positive energy into your working life. This will naturally flow into a few different arenas, so we will actually have a few conversations around this and hopefully help you. If you're listening right now, it'll give you an idea of what you can think about, you're currently doing, ways to help improve that. And today I have a subject expert, you could say, to help us flow in the right direction. She is the owner of Ocean Breath Yoga and Rhythm of Life, a facilitator and inhabiting life coach, nature wellness guide. She is everything that brings rhythm back to living. Beverly Akurst.
Hi, Zulfi. How are you doing today?
I'm feeling quite relaxed after speaking to you. We had a little bit of a
I'm so
chat
glad.
before the show started. And what am I going to do is I've got a little candle here, so I'm gonna put my candle on so we can set the atmosphere and have a nice little bit of
Good setup for a
ambience.
yoga teacher.
Yeah, it's like a citrus fruits, a zesty blend of orange and lemons, evoking memories of warm summer days. So we'll
Oh,
have a bit of a scent in the background while we speak today. Yeah, so I'm hoping that having you on today is going to give us something to think about because it's a number of areas we can cover with this. And coming from your background with the meditation, the breathing, the embodiment, there's different types of things we can do. If we were to say to you, what would you say to someone who's in a busy lifestyle, what energy actually means in terms of how they should think about energy?
we think of ourselves as just living this life, and yeah, here I am, and that's it. But part of what yoga philosophy teaches you is that you are more than just that. We have a physical body, as the Pranamayakosha, but we also have a energy body, Pranamayakosha. So anyone who's ever done yoga and they go, "Oh, I'm doing pranayama," and they have no clue what that means. It's pranayama is the movement of the life force energy through the body. So you have, and this is only the second of 5 bodies, but you have an energy body that exists around you. And if you think that seems a little woo-woo, just ask most scientists now who have finally studied and have discovered, which I love, they've discovered that we have this energy source and it comes off of our body. It's like, think, anytime you've shuffled along the floor in the winter and built up some static and you touch somebody, you get an electric shock. We have energy. And energy, since it affects everything, it flows through. If you were to touch a socket in the wall, you're still going to get a shock. So with us, even when you're not paying attention to energy, it's part of us. It's flowing. And so energy is your life force.
Okay.
So and the wisdom is you're born with a finite amount of it. So how do you
So,
choose to use it?
yeah, the reason I gave you this question straight away is because I
Mm-hmm.
knew it's a question that's very difficult to answer quickly or meaningful
Mm-hmm.
because everybody understands it slightly differently. So, what tends to happen is, for example, in your explanation there, it helps me understand the mindset you've got around energy. If someone else was thinking about energy and thinking about their personal goals, they would relate to it differently. So everybody has their
Mm-hmm.
perception of it. But it's very intriguing that you mentioned around the yoga side of things as well, because this does touch into moving and having your body and feeling a lot of this emotion as well. So, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of your energy that we have around yoga, how do you adapt that into maybe some of the things you do with when you're teaching yoga?
Um, I won't just leave it with what I do in teaching because our energy is with us all day. Yoga is not. I really do need to start with the fact that the West has really kind of destroyed the concept of yoga, turned it into going to a class to get fit. Yoga is the way you move through life. So if you recognize how you're in life, whether it's in work or when you go home or when you go to a yoga studio, if you recognize who you are and how you are, it changes everything. So people who are listening at work, your energy, you might look at it as, I'm really tired when I get home. Or I get brain fog right after lunch. I'm so tired. I don't like my job. And all day long, it takes everything I can to keep going. Well, then you have a different, yes, you're right, a different perspective. But me as a yoga teacher, I go, no, that's part of it. So let's look at what you're doing that affects the flow of energy in your body. So for me, yoga perspective is first, what are you doing with your physical form? Are you sitting in a chair blocking the flow through your joints, through your blood vessels, through different, I'm sorry, meridians in your body? Are you eating food that's going to affect your energy and how your brain perceives what's going on during the day? That's part of the yoga. Are you moving in ways that are powerful, or are they depleting? Because some people might think, oh, vinyasa, I'm going to go in there, get a great, yes, workout. I'll do some fast moving yoga, but are you actually already tired from your whole day and this is depleting you more, leaving you unable to do the things you need to after? So my perspective is finding the practices, whether it's meditation, whether it's a good flowing physical practice, whether it's a walk in nature, whether it's a change in your food, finding a practice that serves each individual being, because there is not one human on this earth who is built the same as another. We're all individual. And yet we have diets that teach us that we're the same. We have classes that fit 100 people in them that treat everybody the same. We have days and weeks and jobs that teach us that we are all the same and we can all function this way, and we're not. Nobody is the same as the person beside them. So what do you do with that? How do you change? How do you shift? How do you find something that serves you in your life?
That's interesting what you say there. So a lot of people, especially in the 9 to 5 working environment, they would think, like you mentioned about the classes aspect of it, like the West is just put it into a box of people that would say, okay, once a week I'm gonna go and do some yoga. I feel excellent. And they limit that to that section of their life. But from what you're saying, it's more of a regular occurrence throughout your life. So maybe more of a daily thing as opposed to a one-off.
And it starts with open eyes and observe wonder. Do you know that when you go to sleep at night, the cells that you use to see your day, they die off. And in the morning, when you wake up and light hits your eyes, the first moment you open them up, it burns away those old cells and they're replaced by new cells that have never, ever seen this day. So can you imagine what you would do if instead of quickly turning off your alarm, grabbing your phone to look at, instead you just laid there and looked around, maybe gazed out a window if you have one to look out? What would be the difference? If you went, oh my God, I've never seen any of this. None of it. I've never seen any of it. Wow. Look at all of this. And then you take a deep breath in rather than rushing. You take a deep breath, feel your lungs expand. And then you swing your feet out and feel them touch the floor. Like, wow, you've never felt that before. And then instead of quickly moving off, you go, right, I can stretch. I can reach out through my body. I can move my spine around. I can feel blood starting to flow. And then you take another breath. And then you get up and you start to move into your day. Even that right there, you've done your yoga. It took you 2 minutes. 2 minutes to change how you step into your day. And this isn't even just an esoteric, wonderful, wouldn't it be nice if? It's been proven now. You know, I love what science is doing. They're starting to look at some of these things, but they keep going, we've discovered. This is stuff that has been talked about for thousands of years by cultures all over the world. And now that science has deemed it worthy of studying, bless their cotton socks, they're studying it and they're realizing that there's a truth to it. So good, they're on board. I'm glad. And now there's data for all the people who might be waffling and still think it's a bit woo woo. They can go look up all the science behind this. But it changes your day. Not only that, it changes your life. And who doesn't want a change in the way life is going right now?
If you were
We
to,
need to
sorry,
change.
to interrupt you slightly there. So, thinking along that, you said a few interesting points that made me come up with the question. And I thought I'm going to interrupt you to ask because otherwise I'll lose it.
Perfect.
So, thinking about this, it's a spiritual type of being. But if you were to weigh this up, would you say there's a certain percentage that would be body versus mind? Or how would you weigh this up if someone was looking at this? Okay, so we are having technical difficulties at the moment. So apologies if you are listening. There's been a storm, and we're just lucky to have Beverly with us today. So I'm very happy she's indoors and out of the rain and out of the storm. However, who are we in the nature scheme of things? So
That's, I think, what I'll leave it at because I'm sure you're not quite catching all the words. We will take this up another time.
we're going to cover this from a multitude of arenas. We had a guest today. We had a nice little section to start off with just to elaborate on that a little bit further. I wanted to give you a few ideas that you could think about during this process. So, learning the language of energy, it's more around when you're working, how you use that energy to flow from one duty, role, idea to the next, especially how we rebuild our relationships along the way during work life as well. So there's little things that can help us. There's things that we can control. There's things outside of our control. You've got things like focusing on the environment, focus on natural light. If you can get some natural light, that rejuvenates you, gives you that extra perk, your skin feels nicer, keeping hydrated, maybe getting some of that outside air and atmosphere into the office environment. So opening windows is a good option for you. Use light to set the mood. Like I did today in this episode, I was actually using a candle just to set a bit of ambience to lower our speed, lower our intention, the heart rate, what we're planning. We've got busy days ahead of us. Most of us have things planned, but we want to make sure we're making the best of the time we're currently using. So in addition, also, there are additional things that we can do in the atmosphere. So maybe using artwork to inspire emotion, using pictures that you can look at and then it takes you to another place. These are all things that give us good energy around being positive in our working life, and even having real life houseplants in your office environment, because having living houseplants gives you an additional bit of a boost, I would say, because when you're thinking about it, you actually got another living organism there with you. How amazing is that? And it's a plant. I have got fake plants in the office because here there's very little light because it's a studio type environment. However, if you're watching on the YouTube where the podcast also goes on, you can see the video element of this podcast. So keeping that as an idea, keeping plants that are a bit more hardy. In office environments, they normally hire someone to come out and look after the plants. So that's the atmosphere side of things, and it gives you an extra boost. It's definitely seeing something living there is a good idea. Now, touching on your mental energy, that's another thing that would be very difficult to think about. We don't think about it, we just do and action things without realizing, wait a minute, if I think about this in a intentional way, it will help me to make sure that I can replicate this feeling that I'm feeling now, and either next time for better or worse use this feeling to motivate myself. So maybe feed your brain with senses, going outdoors, fresh air, hydration, all these basic things a lot of people talk about, but until you put them into practice, even now, if you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, how can I impact change? Try a couple of things. Keep moving. Going on a walk regularly every day helps. Keeping hydrated, having a bottle of drink with you always. And I just knocked the bottle here, so you heard that in its full glory. Even things like basic meditation, so nothing too intense, having deep breathing exercises, relaxing, making sure you've got a moment to yourself, and changing the view. You may be used to a certain position where you're always sitting. Change things around a little bit. Move your chair to a different spot. Move your computer around. Every couple of months, think of a new perspective for yourself, just to scale back on all the hard work you're doing, and maybe taking that time to relax and reflect on what you've already done. Because there's loads of times that you're going to be really energetic, and there's going to be times when you're not energetic. That's okay. Sleep is a big part of this as well. So maybe take the moment out of your life where you can have good sleep patterns, trying to find a time where you're naturally going to go to sleep. If you're not going to sleep, maybe lowering the temperature so it's a little bit cooler, having the atmosphere which then you want to curl up and get warm and go to sleep. All these little things will help you throughout being a positive energy into your working life. In the next episode, we're going to look into a further. We had some difficulties today, so apologies and thanks for sticking with me. Let's talk. See you on the next one. Bam.